love a cup of coffee in the morning, don't we, guys? Like, who doesn't love a cup of coffee in the morning? And why is it like, why do I have to get swizzled if I get a cup? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my voice is gone. Good morning, everybody. So listen, guys, we are waking up this morning to claims from Iran. And look, guys, let me just be quite clear. The headline I've got right now, I will not share that with you because it's full of ads. But this is a headline from GB News this morning, and this is the headline. Iran declares a state of emergency after Islamic Republic declares total a state of total war with the United States, Europe, and Israel. That's the headline on GB News, okay? I'm going to be unpacking that. We're going to be reading about that. I'm going to give you guys my opening monologue. I am streaming on TikTok as well at the moment. So as soon as I'm just going to go straight onto my opening monologue, guys. I will do this twice. I'll do it now and then I'll do it closer to the end. The reason I'm doing that is obviously some people jump on later and then they don't catch it. But I do want, before I go on to this, guys, you know, this is something we've been saying for a long time on this channel. We're talking about these diversions where the United States have been going, will be going over to the Middle East. I've said this for like forever. I've never changed my mind. And the Europeans, led by the United Kingdom, will be dealing with Eastern Europe. Now, the reason this has to happen is because, can you imagine, right, if it was just the United States, the whole of NATO fighting, let's total hypothetical now, guys, for entertainment purposes, because I'm still on TikTok. So this is just wild conspiracy now, guys, okay? Wild conspiracy. What would happen if the whole of NATO went into Iran and the whole of NATO went into Ukraine supporting the Ukrainians? The United States would be getting proxy attacks from the Russians. They will be getting proxy attacks from the Iranians. They will be getting sabotage from the Iranians. They'll be getting sabotage from the Russians. What would happen here in Europe? Yeah, we will be getting sabotage attacks from the Iranians. We will be getting sabotage attacks from the Russians. Now, because those forces have been split and because Donald Trump's been very, you know, loquacious with President Putin, I'm speculating that's for a reason. And the reason for that is so the Russians don't attack the Americans and the Russians don't use their proxies and their sleeper cells that are already embedded in the United States. It's divide and conquer 101, but the opposite way around. You don't want to divide your forces and get conquered. You don't. You want to keep your forces strong and potent. So that's why we're seeing these two diversions. And I've been saying this like literally all along. Right. So let me start with this, guys. So I'm going to give you guys a brief brief context on what's happening. So as of 30th of December 2025, the situation in Iran remains highly tense, marked by escalating economic protests across multiple cities and inflammatory rhetoric from the government amid ongoing regional and international pressures. Here's a clear breakdown of what we know so far based on a range of open source mainstream media reports. So let me be quite clear, ladies and gentlemen, like this afternoon, this may all change. It really may change. It's a fluid situation. It's moving quickly. This afternoon, what I'm saying now, it may have all changed, okay? So the total war declaration. On December the 28th, I think it was, Iranian president, in an interview published on the website of the supreme leader, said that Iran is engaged in a total war with the United States, Israel, and Europe. He described this as a multifaceted conflict, economic, political, cultural, and security-related, more complex than 1980-1988 Iraq-Iran war. The president accused the West of trying to bring Iran to its knees through sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and military pressure. I mean, I think that's fair to say. He claimed Iran's military is now stronger following the brief but intense 12-day war with Israel in June 2025, which sadly, and it is sad when people lose their lives, took over 1,000 Iranians. This rhetoric appears timed ahead of the meeting between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump, and amid stalled nuclear talks and reimposed UN sanctions. So it does look like they're trying to rebuild their nuclear enrichment program, their nuclear program, whatever it is. If you've got nuclear energy, you can, you can use that. you can use that for nuclear enrichment. This language from the president, this is strong language from the president, but frames the existing pressures on the country. Now, I want to give context on these, on the protests as well, and what's happening on the ground. Remember, okay, guys, this is a very fluid situation. It may have all changed already. These things happen really quickly. Like I always say, when things happen, they will happen quick. Everything's fine until it's not. And it's funny that I think literally yesterday morning on the live stream, I was talking about, like somebody asked me a question and I said, look, I know it's not happened yet, and I know there's no rhetoric, but Iraq, the United States, they're going to be moving into Iran. And there was nothing, was there? There was literally nothing on the mainstream. I've not changed my mind about this. This is the direction of travel, and you can see it now. So protests erupted yesterday, starting as strikes by shopkeepers and merchants in Tehran and in Tehran's main market and other major markets over the Iranian rial's collapse to record lows. So basically, their currency has absolutely collapsed. It's fallen. By today, so this is literally the latest news reports I've got at the moment. And like I say, you know, this may have changed. By to say, what are we on? December the 30th, demonstrations have spread nationwide. So you've got Tehran, you've got Mashhad, you've got Hamadan, you've got Isfahan, you've got Shiraz. You know, all of the countries now, these protests have erupted. The chants have shifted from economic grievances to political ones. They're shouting death to the dictator. The dictator will be toppled. You know, it's turned into a political chant now rather than an economic one. University students joined with solidarity actions, including planned gatherings and hunger strikes. Security forces have responded with tear gas, batons, and heavy deployments. Now, the IRGC have been deployed, IRGC riot police, which are the IRGC riot police. So for those of you guys don't know, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, I think it is. They 50, just for context, 50% of their funding goes to asymmetric warfare, which is one of the things I've been saying is coming to our streets very soon. Businesses have been shuttered, which has amplified the strike's impact. Nighttime rooftop chants and small gatherings have continued. Now, there's been the economic crisis that's been fueling unrest. Just imagine this, guys. All right. The Iranian currency has hit an all-time low this weekend, exacerbating inflation. Food prices are up 72% year on year. There's been chronic sanctions, mismanagement of finances, low oil revenue. The post-June war rebuild has been, you know, that's had a cost. Broader issues like energy shortages, water crisis, and pollution. Central bank chief resigned on yesterday, the 29th. Regime insiders admit systemic failures, negative GDP growth, and fictitious banking assets, and warnings of hyperinflation or food shortages are bringing hungry people to the streets. And we do see that happening in the United Kingdom on a small level. I just want to give some broader context now. I want to give some broader context, in Iran. Iran's still recovering from this June 25 war with Israel and the United States. Executions, now I'm getting this from mainstream media, executions have surged to an estimated 1,500 plus so far in 2025. Can you imagine that? And can you imagine that boiling pot? Can you imagine that boiling pot now? Now people are protesting. They're out on the streets. And they're so scared. They know that if they don't topple their regime, it's going to go bad for them. So now these people are going to be potentially fighting with a lot more vigor, fighting with a lot more drive, because they know. And this is what I do think. It's like when you, and I talked about this a while ago. When you tighten that heavy lid on a boiling pot and you just crank it shut, it's going to go at some point. You might be able to keep cranking it down and really, but at some point it will go. And the more you tighten it down, the bigger the explosion is going to be, basically. And that's what's happening. I said this about in the United Kingdom when Keir Starmer sending people to jail for Facebook posts. That's going to, exacerbate that. Obviously, it's not as bad. I'm not saying I'm definitely not saying it's as bad as these mass executions that are happening in Iran, 1,500 plus this year so far. But what's happening is when you tighten these nuts really tight, the inevitable happens. So the situation is fluid and volatile. These protests have turned quickly into, political protests. The currency continues to be in free fall. This repression, I believe, will escalate in the coming days. And that's what we know so far, guys. Right. So you guys on TikTok, I am going to close you guys down now. If you guys want to continue this live stream, I'm going to be over on YouTube for the next hour or so. And if not, I will see you guys later on this evening. So I'm going to close you guys down because you can see that there, right? You can see my little thing there. If I do this any further, I'll get banned. So that's my coffee cup. That's my little, that's my coffee cup there. I want to have a cup of coffee. So I need to turn you guys off on TikTok because I want to have some coffee. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. If you want to jump over there and continue this conversation, the chat's open. You're more than welcome. And if not, I'll see you guys later. Right, I've got some messages there. Right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about the escalating situation in Iran. We're talking about the escalating situation in the world. We're talking about the swizzles that are happening. I'm trying to make sense of it all for you guys so you can see these steps coming. Now, yesterday, the United States, Donald Trump, he said if the Iranians try and build a nuclear, I can't remember what he said basically, but he said he'll beat the hell out of them or something. That's what he said. I can't remember the exact context. Now, the reason this has to happen. Well, do you know what? Nothing has to happen. All right, nothing has to happen. But the reason this is going to happen is. Think about it, right? Think about imagine you've got an army of 100 men. Make it simple, right? Imagine you've got an army of 100 men and you've got 2 wars to fight. And your friend over the water, he's also got an army of 100 men. All right? Are you going to get 50 men from each army and go and fight the war? Or are you just going to say, right, you take your army over there and deal with them, and I'll take my army over there and deal with them? That seems like the logical thing to do, right? Because in that context, where if the United Kingdom, the Europeans have been going into Iran and we were like, imagine if like British planes were bombing Iran, then Iran would get pissed off and they may or may not activate their sleeper cells that are operating in the United Kingdom. And look, guys, I've done videos on sleeper cells. I've done that a lot. And to me, it's pretty clear. That there are, in fact, you know what? I'm not even going to say to me. We did a video the other day, and there's a guy, and he's been. Excuse me. There was a guy, and he's been living as a. Go on, what's he been living as? He's been living as basically a spy for 8 years in London's terror networks, and he's saying that there are hundreds of sleeper cells in the United Kingdom. That's not me. That's not me speculating. That was an article released on, I can't remember. I think it was the BBC or something. Dantag. Right, guys, can we keep the language to a minimum? Ladies and gentlemen, look, guys, can we all keep the language to a minimum? Like, I know people are a bit, He said, Dan Tag is saying, I'm not happy with Iran. The UK is being destroyed. The Middle East need to grow up and give its head a wobble. I don't know what that means. And so the so-called adult religious leaders, they are a disgrace. Okay, I don't know what that means. Dan Tag, I don't know what that means. Age Aesthetics is saying, so is the US at war with Iran? According to the Iranians, yes. Let me share this with you guys. So according to the Iranians, well, do you know what? According to an article on GB News, according to the Iranians. So according to this article, which is according to the Iranians, this comes as I think it's the Iranian president has said they are claiming a state of all-out war with the United States, Europe, and Israel. That's what the Iranians are saying. We've had nothing from the Americans. I don't think we will. I don't think it makes sense for the Americans to even comment on that. Let me jump up and get the chat. John Scott is saying, let's hope the people of Iran can take the government down. That's inflammatory. So what happens is, look, guys, no matter how bad things are in the United Kingdom, we have not got to the stage where there have been like executions. Look, guys, in 2025 so far, there have been over 1,500 executions in Iran. So you can imagine how scared those people are. So now when you're in Iran, you're going out and you're protesting. I know it's bad in the United Kingdom because if you go out in the United Kingdom and you shout at a dog, you'll get time in prison. But can you imagine going out and how can you imagine how the game would change if when you went out to protest you literally risked public execution? Can you imagine that? It's just wild. This is weird. I woke up. Look, guys, this is totally off track, but there was cats outside last night. I don't know whether it was it a full moon or something. There was cats screaming outside. They were under my porch. They were like, "Arr, arr." So yeah, I heard the cats screaming last night. That was weird. Paul Lloyd is saying, I wonder what would happen if Putin himself was killed. Like, I wonder what the response would be. Well, I think so I think it's better the devil you know with Putin. I mean, Putin seems to be a moderate, and he does, and I know that's wild. I know that is wild. What Putin has done is he's surrounded himself with people who are worse than him. So, not worse. What's the word I'm looking for? More hardline. So Putin surrounded himself by his military generals, his second in command. They are all hardliners, right? And the reason he's done that is because he doesn't want that drone attack hitting his house. He doesn't want that kaboomer in it. Because this is my opinion, if Putin does get taken out, the person that steps up after him will be a lot worse. Oh, hang on. What's Michelle saying? Hang on, let me jump up. I don't know. Torin Soldier, I think that is. Torin Soldier is saying no legislation against tyranny, but ex-bows are legal for now. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Like, do you mean like X? Do you mean it's legal to post on X? There's no legislation against tyranny, but you can. I think what he's saying here is there's no legislation against tyranny, but you can still post on X. Doubt they would suffice against the heckler. Right, I'm struggling here. Oh, crossbow. Right. Okay. I'm not commenting on that. Right. Sorry, guys. I get swizzled. Buy copper and silver. Yeah, silver's going up, guys. Silver's going up. Look, remember what I've said this like from day one. From day one, guys, look, this is not financial advice. I'm not qualified to give anyone financial advice. If you saw my bank account, I'm definitely not qualified. It's just a hemorrhage place. The thing with silver, I would go with silver rather than copper. You know, if you're buying silver coins, right, you can use them. They have utility, right? So if you buy a silver coin, you can buy a silver coin and it's like, what, 50 quid or something? You know, fair size silver coin, like 50 quid, pure silver. Well, 99.99, whatever it is, silver. You can buy that and that has like utility, right? That you can get something for 50 quid. If you have like one of these gold bullions that's like, what's one of those little, is it a 1 ounce gold bullion or something? They're like $3,000. So you imagine this now, guys. Imagine it's the collapse. Keir Starmer's gone. He's had enough. He's taken some Ukrainian models. He's got on his private jet and he's gone. He's just like, yeah, see you later, losers. You know, the streets are in absolute chaos. There's no money. All the banks have closed their doors. Right. Imagine going up to somebody with a bar of gold and saying, mate, can I trade this bar of gold for some diesel? And he's like, well, yeah, but that's a $3,000 bar of gold. And I've got like jerry cans and like, what do you want me to do? Give you change? Do you want me to cut it in half? You can't do anything with it. So silver can be an actual currency. And I know people like with gold and stuff, people say that gold can be a currency. I just don't see it with gold. I genuinely, you know, if there is a collapse in society, which, you know, I do think it's on the cards at some point, it has to be. If there is a collapse in society, I genuinely see a scenario where people are trading with silver. Do you know what? I'm going to go and buy some silver coins, actually. So yeah, I will go with silver. Remember, guys, okay, that's not financial advice. I'm not qualified to give anyone financial advice, not even near. Get a dictionary. There is no point you holding these chats if you don't know what words mean or your skin gets hurt by emotive words. Peace out. Oh, right, okay. All right, I'll see you later then. Okay. What did I say? Did I say something to upset Dan Tug? Look, guys, I don't feel that people need to swear. I'm not against people swearing. I'm not. But I don't feel people need to swear to get their point across. I really don't. You know, there are plenty of words. You know, there are plenty of words that you can use, and you don't have to swear. Mandy Smith. Mandy Smith is saying hello from, I think she's on Twitch. Mandy Twitch, make sure you like and subscribe on Twitch. I don't even know what my handle is on Twitch. Rod Panhard is saying Putin can't stop the war. No, he can't. He needs a proper agreed treaty from the US. That means second, third US Senate agreement. That's never happening as there are too many Russian. Yeah, I agree with that. It's not going to happen. Listen, guys, if you're joining for the first time, we are talking about the declaration of the total war declaration that was given yesterday by the Iranian president. Now, he said that the Iranians are in a state of total war against America, Europe, and Israel. I'm just going to give you guys my opening monologue again, because I know some people are joining for the first time, and then that will be it, guys, okay? And then we'll come on to the chat. So, and if you've not done so already, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on right now and you've not done so already, hit those buttons down below, the like, comment, subscribe, share my stuff. Really helps me out in the algorithm. And if you can, and if you've done so already, guys, can you please put it in the chat? Excuse me. If you've become a member, do you get ads? Because a few of you guys were saying yesterday that you've become members, and since you become members, you don't get ads. And look, I'm quite clear. Some people were complaining about the ads. I have no I have no say over where the ads come. There's nothing, literally nothing I can do about the ads. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast. So we are talking about the escalating situation now in the Middle East and the declaration of total war by the Iranian president. So as of December the 30th, the situation in Iran remains very tense, marked by escalating economic protests across multiple cities and inflammatory rhetoric from the government amid ongoing regional and international pressures. Here is a breakdown of what we know so far based on open source social media reports. I don't know anybody in Iran, guys. I know lots of people in Ukraine. I know lots of people in European militaries. I don't know anybody in Iran. I don't know anybody in Iran. So I'm going off. I don't have any inside information. I'm just putting this together and giving you guys my analysis. So a total war declaration on, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, I think the 28th actually, the Iranian president stated in an interview published on the website of the supreme leader that Iran is engaged in a total war with the United States, Israel, and Europe. And I'll come on to that afterwards. I'll come on to why America seemed to be cozying up to the Russians and why there seems to be no pressure from the Europeans on the Iranians. He described this as a multifaceted conflict with economic, political, cultural, security-related issues, which is more complicated than the 1980-1988 Iran-Iraq war. The president accused the West of trying to bring Iran down to its knees through sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and military pressure. He claimed Iran's military is now stronger following the brief but intense 12-day war with Israel. Remember, this war was predominantly airstrikes and missile strikes. This rhetoric does appear timed ahead of the meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Donald Trump in their lovely Mar-a-Lago place. Wasn't it nice in Mar-a-Lago? I'd love to go there for a steak. On the ground in Iran, mass protests have broke out all over the country. Now, these protests broke out yesterday, starting as strikes by shopkeepers and merchants in Tehran's Grand Market. Excuse me. Over the Iranian currency, the Iranian rials collapsed to record lows. By today, and again, guys, look, this may all change by this afternoon. I think I'll talk about this again this afternoon. As of today, the latest update is these protests have spread nationwide. So you've got Tehran, Mashhad, Mamadan, Isfahan, Shiraz, Zanjan, Kashim Island. It really has spread all over the country, these protests. The chants have shifted they started as economic grievances, but they've shifted to political grievances now. They're chanting death to the dictator. The government will be toppled this year. Calls for a regime change. Now, this has changed quickly. And I'll come on to it in a minute, but there's been over 1,500 executions in Iran. So you can understand now the risk when this thing starts to move. And if you're in a fight, and if you're in a fight with somebody, right, and if you tap out or get knocked out, the referee's going to come and he's going to stop everything, right, and you're going to be okay. If you're in a fight and that there ain't no tapping out, there ain't no going home safe, it's literally if you lose that fight, it's the execution block for you. You are going to fight an order of magnitude with more ferocity. That's the reality. And that's where I think Iran is going right now. Security forces have responded with tear gas, batons, and heavy deployment. IRGC, riot police have been deployed. Businesses have been shuttered, widely amplifying the strike's impact. Nighttime rooftop chants and small gatherings have continued despite crackdowns. Now, the rial, the currency in Iran has hit an all-time low over the weekend, with fuel prices rising up to 72% year on year. Food prices, sorry. So, can you imagine that? Like when you think, I don't know, bag of potatoes or whatever. A bag of potatoes was X. Like you're struggling now to buy anything. Now, I do want to give the broader context because Iran is still recovering from the June 2025 war with Israel and the United States, which damaged their nuclear facilities. I do think it's fair that I need to mention now that the Iranians are rebuilding their nuclear facilities. They're making they're not hiding it. They've been quite clear about it. They've said that it only slowed them down. In the United States, they passed something in 2000. I think it was 2003. The United States passed a law in 2003 that said that they would not accept Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon, and they would take all action necessary to prevent that. So they kind of said what they were going to do in 2023. Executions have surged, an estimated 1,500 plus in 2025. Just for context, that's double 2024's figure. Now, this only installs fear. But like I said, when people understand that they may be on the chopping block if they get caught or captured, they're going to fight with a lot more. They are going to, once that momentum goes and you can see that regime change, people are going to fight for their lives. Like I said at the beginning, guys, okay, the situation is fluid and volatile. It all may change. It all may have all changed right now. But the situation on the ground in Iran, as I understand it right now, is these protests are ongoing. The government are trying to crack down. This is amid all this cauldron, this absolute cauldron. And the United States, Donald Trump came out. He said something like yesterday, like, if the Iranians better not get a nuclear weapon, or what did he say? We're gonna spank the hell out of them, or I can't remember. Somebody put it in the chat what he said. We're gonna beat the hell out of them or something. I can't remember exactly. Debris Gen X is saying, love the Iranian women. They're really brave the way they oppose the regime in Iran. Look, can you see how here in the United Kingdom, wearing the burqa, wearing these face veils, it's empowering. But the Iranian women, they're like, no, we don't want to wear that shit. This is definitely not empowering. It's and like I say this quite a lot. I've lived in the Middle East quite a lot. I have. I've lived in the Middle East quite a lot. I mean, I spent 5 years living in Baghdad, and these like I don't know what's is that the burqa? Is that the burqa when they've got that one? I don't know what it is, guys. I think it's the burqa. I never saw one Iraqi woman wearing that. Never. I never saw one Iraqi woman in the full gown. I didn't. Yeah, they had like the headscarves on and stuff, but I never saw one Iraqi woman. And it really does fascinate me. Asia Aesthetics is saying, that reminds me of Ukraine last stand, where the Russians and Ukrainians fight hand-to-hand combat with a knife, unfortunately. The Russians won. I don't know where that was. I've not seen that one. Sorry, guys. Let me just jump up and get the comments. Why do Iran want war? Is it because of a long-standing disagreement with the West? No, it's about money. Okay, so it's all about money. There's a trade route. Oh, let me try. I should have got this. Let me try and get a map. Let me see if I can get this map. Let me see if I can get a map. Hang on, give me a second. That's not going to... Right, maybe this one. secure. Right, I've got. Okay, whatever. Oh, hang on. Give me a second. Let me get it right. Okay, this may work. Okay. Okay, right. I'm going to share a map with you. So, for those of you guys who don't like, why do Iran want a war? It's all okay. So this is my opinion, speculation, analysis. This is, you know, you ask someone else, they're going to tell you something else. As far as I'm concerned, it's all about trade routes. It's all about money, unfortunately. Now, so on this map here, you guys can see, let me take that down. So on this map, you guys can see Iran there, right? So you've got Iran, you've got Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, over onto like slightly the right of the screen, I think it is. You've then got that patch of water on the south coast of Iran. Now, if you follow that to the east, you've got like a little peninsula where like Dubai is. Now, that's called the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I know about the Strait of Hormuz because in the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the British military had to sail all their stuff through that Strait of Hormuz. So I got a lot of briefings on the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that Strait of Hormuz can be closed by Iran anytime they want. The Iranians can 100% say, right, okay, we are closing the Strait of Hormuz. Now, depending on where you get your information, 20% of the world's oil goes through that region. So you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got Qatar, you've got Dubai, maybe not Dubai. Well, no, you have got Dubai. You know, you've got Bahrain, you've got Kuwait, you've got, you know, did I say Iraq? So you've got all these oil-rich producing countries, and they ship all their oil out through that direction. Now, what there was proposed is there was a proposed pipeline, land corridor. Sorry, it wasn't a pipeline, a land corridor, a trade route. So if you guys can see there, Saudi Arabia on the other side of the Persian Gulf, the proposed trade route was through Saudi Arabia, through Jordan, which is just like on the top of the screen, through Israel on to the Mediterranean. Now, if that trade route was activated, Iran would have zero influence. They would have no influence. They wouldn't be able to control the oil. They wouldn't be able to control the flow of oil through the Suez Canal because people would just say, oh, well, if you're going to close the Strait of Hormuz, I'm just going to take this other trade route, and it may or may not be better. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's a big contributing factor as to why that happened. Anyway, right, let me jump down and get some more comments. David is saying, I seen on Twitter that this coincides with the Iranians putting their third satellite into space, supposedly secured the GPS and the communications. I didn't hear that. I've not heard that. What I will say is the first, a lot of these missiles are heavily reliant on GPS. So these long-range missiles, they're heavily reliant on GPS. Now, I would say the Iranians are using the Russian GLONASS system. The good thing, well, not one of the things that drones do. Drones are so these type of drones, all right, how these can navigate is they can use so they use mobile phone towers because they're so low down. Excuse me. Because they're so low down, they can pick up phone signals, right? They can pick up cell towers, basically. So as they're flying, they know which cell tower is which cell tower, and they can say, right, okay, so I'm getting strength 5 from this cell tower. I'm getting strength 3 from that cell tower, and I'm getting strength 1 from that cell tower. So I must be here. And they can plot that. They can use cell towers to navigate. So normally I would say these satellites are for missile strikes, but at the moment with how drones are changing the battlefield, yes, I know what I'm saying. I know yesterday I was saying drones are not changing the battlefield, but we were talking about these yesterday. Now we're talking about these. I don't think that's so important anymore. All these world leaders are all we and wind. They have got They have not got the balls to launch a missile at another country. They know they would get annihilated. It's all fake news and scaremongering. I mean, they've definitely launched a lot of missiles at other countries, 1,000,000%. I mean, the Iran, I mean, was it a war, the 12-day war in June? I don't know if you can call it a war. But in June, when the Iranians and the Israelis were exchanging munitions, that was definitely, they were definitely firing. Jess Pix is saying, if you can't get enough water, you're going to revolt. All right, hang on. Jess Pix is saying, Iran has no water. They put the dams in the wrong place, using the water for industry and messed up. What? You mean the Middle Eastern engineers messed up? I don't believe it. I don't believe Middle Eastern, excuse me. I don't believe Middle Eastern engineers messed up. Where's she saying the next thing? If your country can't get enough water, you are going to revolt. Listen, guys, on that bombshell, I talk about this all the time. I was stuck once in, I think it was a place called Amuda in northeast Syria. I was just stuck there. It's a long story why I was stuck there. And I was stuck there for 24 hours. I didn't know I was stuck there for 24 hours. I was on my own. Yeah, I was on my own. It's another story how I got there. I was on my own in a house in Amuda, in a safe house. And I had 1 2-liter bottle of water. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, but Sean, I don't drink 2 liters a day. Trust me, right? When the water runs out and you've got no water and no way to get water, like here in the United Kingdom, it's so ridiculous. We're surrounded by water, but we don't have any. Well, we do have some, but it's the water supply in the UK is massively critical. If you've ever been stuck with no water, it's absolutely terrifying. And I always tell people, when people say, oh, Sean, should we buy this? Should we buy that? I say, look, guys, just buy water. If you want to buy something, just try and, if you want to spend your money on something, you want to go, look, one down these prepping roads where you've got, these stock cupboards full of all sorts of goodies. I would say fill it with water. Because I do feel and I do see a real scenario in the United Kingdom where either look what's been happening down, I can't remember where it was. Recently this year, there's been somebody had there was a county and they had their water turned off and it's been off for I don't know, 3 weeks or something. We've already seen plots in the United Kingdom foiled to poison the water supply. So I think people should just have enough water, have enough water to last 3 days, for your family, and work on 3 liters of water per person per day as a minimum. Logistically, how would Israel get boots on the ground in Iran? They can't. The Israelis can't. The Israelis don't have the legs, and that's nothing. That's nothing negative to the Israelis. They just don't have the logistics to do it. The Israelis do not have the logistics to get boots on the ground in Iran. First of all, you have to do this by sea. There's no way around it. You have to do this by sea. You have to go through the Strait of Hormuz. You have to go in with a big naval presence, and you have to go in guns blazing for Iran. That has to be done by sea. And the only country in the entire world who have the capacity to get boots on the ground in Iran is the United States. There's no one else. Literally no one else. Silly Gallardi is saying this is one of the reasons Israel acknowledged Somaliland to get closer to Iran. Is Somaliland the top? I don't even know where Somaliland is. Is Somaliland northwest northeast Somalia, where they found oil. Is that Somaliland? I don't know. Let me Google this. I should know. So I think Somaliland is like, if you look at Somalia, you guys that way. If you look at Somalia, I think Somaliland is the northeast region where they just found oil. I think that's where it is. Where is Somaliland? Ah, hang on. Ah, well, maybe I was right. Maybe I was right, but no, I wasn't. It's northwest. It's like, no, do you know what? I'm going to go with I was right. I'm going to say I was right. It's like, Somalia is weird because it like bends, doesn't it? Yeah, it's northern Somalia, basically. Northern Somalia. Northern Somalia, south of, northern Somalia. Northern Somalia. Listen, guys, so I do these live streams in real time. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I'm not 100% on things. You just saw it there. I said it was north. I said Somaliland was northeast. Northeast Somalia. It's just North Somalia. Pete is saying, you've spoken about this before. How long can you store water in 25-litre containers? Do you need to do anything prior to drinking it if it's stored for a long time? So yes is the answer. So I don't think there's not a time. There isn't a time on it, really. Obviously, you can store water indefinitely. I mean, water on the Earth's like, what, millions of years old. So what you're supposed to do with water is you're supposed to sterilize your container, fill it to the brim, and then keep it in the dark. Don't let it have any exposure to sunlight, and it should be good. I would test it before you drink it. But look, guys, make sure you find it. I'm sloping shoulders in on that as well. I'm not an expert on that. Listen, what Jesse Pix is saying here, I think this is if you have the means to process your own water, that is better than storing it. So if you have a, best case scenario with water would be like a standpipe. We have a stream. Well, we don't have a stream. There's a stream near us. If you can get your own water, if you can filter it and clean it yourself, that is better than storing it, because then you can just go like to a local reservoir or whatever. You can process that water yourself. Four Paws is saying, give Sean the thumbs up. Give me the thumbs up, guys. I know you guys want to give me the thumbs up. And if you've not done so already, please make sure you hit those buttons down below. The like, follow, subscribe button. Right, I'm just going to jump down. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining for the first time, we are talking about the breaking news of the day. Now, I'm going with this article here from GB News, and I will share this with you real quick. I'm then going to read. I'm then going to read off this article. So this is the article here. Iran is saying they are in a state of total war with the United States, Europe, and Israel. That's what the Iranians are saying. I'm going to read this article now. Security forces have declared a state of emergency in Iran as businesses closed up and launched street protests just hours after the president declared all-out war with the West. Anti-government protests, which broke out in the capital city of Tehran, had tonight spread to other cities. Ruling clerics... Goodness, I've got a cough. I had that you know, that 3-day bug that's going around? Yeah, I think I caught that, but I got rid of it in 6 hours. Ruling clerics called in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, armed with batons and tear gas, to quell the uprising. However, in a last in at least one city, they were beaten back by protesters. A spokesperson for the opposition National Council for the Resistance of Iran said running battles broke out between protesters and the regime's security forces in the city's central areas near, I'm not going to pronounce that word, some gardens and some Hafez Bridge. Mercenary police and thugs loyal to the regime's supreme leader attacked the crowd with tear gas and batons. The people confronted them, chanting, "Dishonorable, dishonorable," and in a bold counterattack, forced the suppressive forces to flee. It follows Iranian authorities declaring total war on the United States, Europe, and Israel, with the Islamic Republic looking to rapidly rebuild its nuclear capabilities. I'm not making this up, guys. This is from the mainstream. Experts suggest that the outburst from the Iranian president was an attempt to destabilize the ongoing meeting between Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The president said that the West's war against Iran is more complicated and more difficult, and compared it to the Iraq-Iran war in the 1980s. He said, "In the war with Iraq, the situation was clear. They fired missiles. We also knew where to hit. Here they are besieging us from every aspect. They are putting us in a difficult situation, in difficulty, and constantly creating problems in terms of livelihood, culturally, politically, and security-wise, while raising society's expectations." How dare you have your expectations raised? Did he really say that? Well, look, guys, I'm reading this, all right? So the Iranian president has claimed that the West are waging war by raising society's expectations. What? You want a better life for yourselves without the fear of being executed? How dare you? How dare you want to live like that? Following the claim, the capital's commercial districts and bazaars, so the bazaars would be, the bazaar is a market, have closed without warning, with workers taking to the streets to protest against the soaring oppression and corruption and collapsing living standards across the country. Chants were heard taunting the supreme leader's regime, including, "This is the year of bold. Kamali will be overthrown." I think that's lost in translation. The Revolutionary Guard imposed a state of emergency across the capital, Tehran. The National Council of Resistance in Iran said the rapid depreciation of the currency, soaring inflation, unprecedented recession, and systematic government discrimination and corruption have expedited the overwhelming majority of people, exacerbated the overwhelming majority of people in Iran. The only way to protest is protest and resistance. Like I said earlier, here in the United Kingdom, you can get sent to prison for shouting at a dog. You can. You get sent to prison for shouting at a dog. In Iran, you kind of go on the block. You kind of go on the block in Iran. So the stakes are a lot higher for those people in Iran who are protesting. The food supply crisis has the potential to bring hungry people to the streets. The country is facing an unprecedented crisis. Experts say corruption and state-level mismanagement. We love me. Look, guys, I don't believe that people from the Middle East can mismanage their country. These people are like the most intelligent, aren't they? They're the smartest. Experts say corruption and state-level mismanagement is now out of control, and executions have hit levels not seen for 20 years. I mean, we think we've got it bad here in the United Kingdom, right? But imagine you're a woman. Imagine you live in Iran, right? And you kind of like don't want to have to go again. Like you don't want to have to do. You don't want to wear, imagine you're a woman. It's the easiest example to visualize. Imagine you live in Iran, right? And I know a lot, like more, I would say like the majority of Iranian women don't want to be all covered up in the hot weather. And, you have to be. And this is what happens. Like this really is what happens when the people have no way to hold the government to account. It really is. And like I always say on this channel here in the United Kingdom, we have no legal method to hold the government to account. When you have no way to hold the government to account, the government go crackers. Ultimate power corrupts ultimately. There's no exception on that. Obviously, in the United States, they have the Second Amendment, and the Second Amendment, they can legally, they have that framework to hold the government to account. Right, let me jump down and get some comments. Good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking this morning, about the ongoing escalation we're talking about the ongoing escalation in Iran. I've been talking about this for quite a while. We've been talking about it for quite a while. And the reason this is happening, the reason the United States will be dealing with that. So you guys have heard the, what's that guy? Is it Sun Sin, The Art of War? Is it Sun Sin, The Art of War? I think it is. Anyway, you guys have heard of divide and conquer, right? Divide and rule, divide and conquer. It's the same thing. If you've got an army of 100 people, that's going to be harder to defeat than an army of 50 people, right? So you want to divide your enemy's army. That's your maths, right? Now, if it's looking like we're heading towards a global conflict on an industrial scale, if you guys think that's on the cards, if you guys think there's going to be a war in Europe with the Russians, I don't know. If you guys think there's going to be a war in the Middle East with the Iranians, to actually take Iran, you have to have boots on the ground. You can't do it from the air. I'm sorry, you can't. You just can't do it from the air. You can severely damage them from the air, but you need those boots on the ground. You need soldiers to go in. So if you want to take Iran, the only way you can take Iran is by the sea, from the sea, south coast. That is literally the only way. I did a deep dive into this a while back. Now, the only country in the world that has the manpower and the logistics to put maybe 300,000 soldiers by sea on the ground in Iran is the United States. They're the only ones who have that capacity. Like nobody else has that capacity. So if you take the numbers, like just think about it. If you take, I think, was it 300,000? I think it was 300,000. I think it was 300,000. I think maybe 600,000. How many? Yeah, around 300,000. Excuse me. So there were around 300,000. There was around 160,000 for the the main teeth arms, but then you have your supporting arms after that. So around 300,000 troops was the initial invasion of Iraq, right, in 2003. So if you use that number, 300,000, because you've obviously got your infantry at the front, then you've got your artillery, then you've got your naval forces. So imagine the food and all the logistics that it takes to support 300,000, 300,000 soldiers. It's a lot. the United Kingdom do not have that amphibious capability at all. We don't have that amphibious capability at all. We have not at all. So now we're looking at this scenario where the United States is going to go into Iran, right? This came out in their law that got passed in 2003 that said they were not going to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. So the Americans, they have all the logistics, they have everything to do that. If the Americans were then to go and help the Europeans against the Russians in Ukraine, they would have to split their forces because you have to come over the sea as well. So regardless where they're going by the sea, they have to do it by the sea. So then you'd have this scenario where the United States would have split their forces, making them not as potent, right? But under that scenario, the United States would then be taking, proxy attacks, sabotage attacks, asymmetric attacks from the Russians. Because they'd be like, well, you're attacking us, we're going to attack you asymmetrically as well. But now what we're seeing is the United States being very polite to the Russians because they don't want to get those Russian attacks, right? Because they're going into the Middle East. So they're keeping their forces together and they're going into the Middle East. And I think the United States will be successful. Whereas the Europeans, we don't have that amphibious capability. We just don't have it. We don't have the amphibious capability to move troops at that scale to Iran. It's just, we literally don't have it, right? We don't have it. Yes, you can parachute stuff in, you can airdrop stuff, but not at the scale that's needed. But you know what we do have in Europe? Trucks and road networks. So we don't need any of this amphibious stuff to fight a war in Russia, in Ukraine. We don't need any of that stuff. We need trucks. And I said to you guys a while ago, if anybody knows a civilian haulage company, maybe now is the time to try and find out if there's any contracts with the MOD where you can be a haulage company taking things from the United Kingdom into Eastern Europe, into Ukraine, because I do think that is going to be I do think people are going to make a lot of money there. Your soul is black with trash. Oh, okay. Oh, I think he's saying white trash. Look, guys, listen. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Then he's saying it's revenge time. Right. Okay. Listen, I mean, no disrespect, mate. I think he means your soul is black, white trash. Look, and I mean, no disrespect. I know English is probably not your first language, but just run your stuff through the spell check first. All right. Yeah, again, it's I think he means it's revenge time. Revenge for what? What revenge? What do you mean? What do you mean by revenge for what? Who's gonna get revenge on who? Who's gonna get revenge on who? Sorry guys, I'm just jumping down the chat. Somebody, sorry guys, I'm just jumping down this. Some people aren't able to spell. They are trolls. Look, guys, I don't mind the trolls. I don't mind a little troll. I don't mind them. I don't mind. Rosie is saying, leave Iran alone. All this talk of regime changes is insane. Do you know what I think is insane? 1,500 executions. I think that's pretty much insane. And I think, look, guys, I'll be quite clear. I think anybody who doesn't value human life, they need a regime change. I do not think the death penalty should ever be a thing for anyone. And I really do mean that. Sometimes I've questioned myself, and sometimes I may say differently. Ultimately, I think life in jail should mean life in jail in the harshest circumstances. taking a life, I don't think you should ever take lives, guys. I don't think you should ever take lives. Paul Jones is saying, why have I been muted? You haven't been muted, Paul Jones. You haven't been muted. Jess is saying, I have earth fatigue. I want to get off. Ain't talking with any one of these pink vibe things. Look, and he's saying again, you look so dirty. That's what my wife said to me. Hang on, where are we going with this? Jess is saying, Jess Pixie is saying, I have earth fatigue. I want to get off. I ain't talking with one of these pink vibe things. As it sounds, as this sounds, look, guys, I don't know if you're joining me for the first time or you're new to the channel. One of the things I've always said, and I will always say, the day that we can stop building bombs, right? And I'm saying this as someone who's got probably more experience than most in the military industrial complex. I look at all these wars and I see the destruction. I see the misery, the real misery. And I think it's pointless. I do. I think it's all pointless. But it's a necessary. Is it? No, it's not necessary. It's a natural part of humanity. It's a natural part of being human. We have eyes in front of our heads, right? We are predators. We are predators. We should be anyway. Some of us who are born are just not predators. But we have eyes in the front of our heads, so we are naturally predators. That's the reality. We want to compete for resources. Now, that competitivity, it drives humans to do great and beautiful things, build beautiful architecture, and I see people saying, humans are the only species that fight each other. And I'm like, definitely not. Definitely not. Humans are the only species who fight each other over resources. Definitely not. Definitely not. Do you know what humans are the only species that do? Humans are the only species that that have education systems. Humans are the only people, who are the only species who have a medical system, paramedics, medicine, doctors. Humans are the only species that bury their dead. So there's a lot of negativity with humans. I get that. And one of the things I say is, as soon as people can stop, just admit we all need to stop building bombs and we start building spaceships, right? We will evolve into an absolute new humanus cosmosus or something, because rather than people making money from selling bombs and guns and tanks and planes and trains and 100 million to this guy for these jets and 50 million and 100 billion and 1 trillion for this war, people will be making money going into space. People will still have that competitivity. You can still compete with, the Americans can still compete with the Russians. The British can still compete with, I don't know, anyone, I guess. But unfortunately, I don't think we're there yet. I'm hoping after this conflict, I'm hoping we can all calm down. I'm hoping we can all calm down and, we can all go into space and stuff. Right, let me jump down. Right, somebody was on the chat and they said, what do you think about the Anthony Joshua crash? Well, I've heard some conspiracies, right? I've heard some conspiracies about the Anthony Joshua car crash. Now, I don't really know. So one of the conspiracies, and look, guys, I'll be quite clear. I don't know if this is true. It's probably not, but this is one of the conspiracies about Anthony Joshua car crash. They're saying that Anthony Joshua wasn't supposed to hit Jake Paul so hard, and he wasn't supposed to knock him out or whatever. And a lot of people lost a lot of money. So what the conspiracy theorists are saying, certainly not me, guys, I really don't care. But they're saying They're saying that it was a hit job on Anthony Joshua because he didn't pull the fight and people lost millions. But I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Paul Jones is saying, Raven, do you think Putin wants these peace talks to work? Absolutely not. Or does he just want? Yeah, no. Look, guys. Okay. Let me get the map on. Right. Give me a second. I'm going to switch fire over to Ukraine for Odin Minuta. I'm going to switch fire over to Ukraine. So let me share this with you now. So if you're Russians, right, and you're taking ground every day on this battlefield and you're moving forwards. So let's just, I don't know, let's just here, for example, let's just rewind this. I'll rewind this a month. That's not even a month, is it? That's just over a month. Right. Okay. So look, guys, I literally just picked a random point there on the battlefield. So imagine you're Putin, right? And this is your battlefield. I'm going to fast forward this now. I don't know if you can make this out, but the red is the Russian controlled areas and the white is the non-controlled Russian area, Ukrainian controlled areas. If you look at the top right of the screen, I think that's top right. If you look at the top right of the screen and just watch these little gains moving forwards, also watch that the Ukrainians are not pushing back. So I'm just going to fast forward this now. So these are the gains that the Russians have made in the last month. Now, I know this is small, but it's constant over, over the whole front line. So the Russians are moving forwards. The Russians keep moving forwards. And the inevitability is, at some point, the Russians will have completed their military tasks because the Ukrainians don't have more men. So why would you have a ceasefire? If you're winning, why would you have a ceasefire? You wouldn't. It makes no sense. Derek. Derek. Oh, hang on. Right, I don't know what that means, Derek, but you've got a fantastic thumbnail of what engine is that? Is that straight six? Is that a straight six, Derek? Is that a straight six engine? I don't know. Jesse saying, so the boxer who was going to sue the other boxer because it's all real fighting and he broke his jaw or whatever is... No, I don't know. Look, guys, I don't know what that's about, guys. I don't know what that's about. Why is it taking Russia so long to destroy Ukraine? I don't think Russia want to destroy. First of all, Russia don't want to destroy Ukraine. The problem, okay, so Putin doesn't want to destroy Ukraine. He wants to absorb it. There's a big difference. I'm not going to put the map up again, but there's a lot of infrastructure that the Russians want to seize, intact. The Ukrainians have the world's biggest Xeon gas producing facility in a place called Kremenchuk. I think it's Kremenchuk. Xeon gas is used for lasers and laser cutting stuff. So as we're moving forwards into this new era of processors, microprocessors, you need lasers to fabricate them. And Ukraine has the world's biggest production facility of that. In Dnipro, they have heavy steel manufacturing in Dnipro, like huge. So they don't want to ruin that. The Ukrainian land, they don't want to litter the land too much with unexploded ordnance and mines because they're going to want to farm that at some point, right? And it's difficult to farm stuff if things keep going kaboom. They don't want to destroy Kiev because Kiev's a beautiful city and Kiev is the birthplace of Russia. If you guys want to go right back through history, there was Kiev and Rush. And there's actually right in the city center on a place called the street's called Vladimirska. If you guys want to jump on Google Maps or whatever, there's a street called Vladimirska, and I think that runs east to west. And then there's a street that runs north to south coming off that called Yaroslavl. On the corner, there's a big old fortress, and that used to be the old the old gateway to the city. Popeye has been arrested for punching though Pope, who asked why he did it. He said, "I heard the Pope went to Mount Olive." KK is saying the laws are created to protect the patriarchy, the government first. Most people are aware. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start to close this down now. The crux of this live stream, and this is developing. This is developing literally hour by hour. This is developing. The breaking news has been the Iranians are declaring total war with the United States, Europe, and Israel. This comes at the backdrop of mass protests broke out all over Iran. Huge protests are breaking out right now in Iran. So the situation is fluid right now. The situation's fluid. Hang on. What's all this lunacy with the Christmas trees? What is that? So Christmas trees. So Christmas trees are nothing to do with a Jewish child born in Palestine. I don't know about that. So Christmas trees. Christmas trees are okay. So Christmas trees. It's an old Nordic. Christmas trees are an old Nordic tradition. From I think it's from like Scandinavia or something, where I think it was Loki. Poisoned somebody. So with the berries from this tree. So every year they bring them in to I think that's where the Christmas tree comes from. I don't think the Christmas tree's got anything to do with Palestine. Paul Jones is saying, Reverend, do you know whether others try to get involved with these peace talks fail and Russia continues to bomb Ukraine? Absolutely. That's an inevitability. That is an inevitability, guys. It really is. I don't see how the Europeans. So when we talk about NATO and this conflict in Ukraine, I genuinely don't see the off ramp. I don't see the off ramp. I don't see the off ramp where people can say, right, okay, we're going to avoid this. Like I just showed you guys on the map, and like that map I just showed you there, you guys can go check that out yourself. The Russians are making ground every day, and you guys can go right back since 2022. The Russians are just slowly moving forwards. And that's the reality. They're slowly moving forwards. They're not moving back in any point. In no point are they moving back. So yes, I do think it is an inevitability. The Willow Fairy is saying that no, the tree is. Yeah, I knew the tree was pagan. It comes indoors to remind us when we're in the dark. Okay, I knew it had something to do with the. Look, guys, I knew that the Christmas tree wasn't didn't have anything to do with Palestine. So I was pretty sure of that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, listen, guys, I'm going to close this down. You guys have been fighting. I'll be back on this. I'll be back on tonight at 8. If there's anything breaking with regards to Iran, the United States, this conflict, I will jump back on and I'll do another live stream. But that's where we are at the moment. This situation is developing. It is, and what you've got to understand is. What you've got to understand as well is on the peripheries of these conflicts, you will now have the CIA, MI6, GCHQ, everybody pumping their influence into Iran, trying to get the Iranian regime to topple. It's what happens here, guys. It's what happens here in our country. Although here in our country, people have the bad guys have a free hand to move. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down. You guys, if you're on, make sure you like, follow, subscribe. I will see you guys later.